Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us wherever you are. If you're on the airwaves here in Santa Barbara, California, we welcome you. If you're watching us from all over the world, we're so grateful and blessed that you're with us. And you can find us on all the social media platforms. And we're here to talk about the good stuff. We're here to uplift. We keep it real at the same time, but we're here to uplift, to honor, to encourage. Wherever you are, I don't know who you are, but God bless you. We're glad you're with us, and we're glad you're watching Good Life. I love meeting great people. I love meeting good people. And we have one today. Janet Craig is with me. Janet, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's a beautiful day where we're sitting. There's a lot going on in the world, but I spent a long time yesterday reading about you and what you're doing, and we're going to get to the movie and we're going to get to all that. But I wanted to start kind of just with your life, where you kind of, your upbringing, your background. I know you were a heck of a tennis player. I read about that. She actually played on the professional tennis circuit. But just talk a little bit about your life, kind of where you came from.
Yeah, well, I was born outside of DC, but I grew up in Arizona. And so tennis, as long as it's not summer, is a good sport to play in Arizona.
Right.
I'm the middle kid of a family. There's older sister, younger brother. And
I'm a middle kid.
Are you? Cool.
Yeah. So
Older sister, younger brother?
I know. Two brothers.
We're the bad guys, right? We're
the rebels. We're ignored, largely.
Try to get attention.
Try to get attention.
Do something.
Try to make everything okay.
Yeah. Keep it all together.
Yeah, that's good. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then I always wanted to be an actress. So I pursued that. I sang, I rode a unicycle. I first saw the circus. I wanted to be, in the circus. And so I started juggling, doing ventriloquism, all that kind of fun stuff. And then when I went to college, I was a theater major and also a tennis player. I got to play in Trinity, which is a Division I team. So those guys were amazing. I was a walk-on and got to really fall in love with playing tennis. So I got to travel the world playing for a few years. Blew my shoulder out at the Australian Open, and then moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting, which I felt like the Lord put on my heart as a little kid. So I get to do what I love, pursuing directing, producing, acting, all those kinds of things. And I now have a family of my own, 4 kids, 2 grandbabies,
oh, really?
11 months apart. My daughter's a hero.
Wow.
And and an amazing husband that puts up with me and has for quite a few years. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And you were you had some pretty incredible coaches in the film acting world. Talk about that.
Yeah, I have had people like Howard Fine, who's one of the most renowned coaches. He teaches to use your imagination and your unique abilities, because we're each our own unique voice, right? And we have something to give. And so he's been my most recent mentor. There was a guy named Cliff Osmond, who's no longer with us. A guy named Harry Master George. And then I was with this Broadway actor, Roy Brocksmith, who's also no longer with us. Watch out if you hang out with me.
Right.
Anyway, but Roy was from Broadway, and he came out and created sort of the Attic Theater of New York in California, pursuing his own film and television. And so I did a bunch of theater at the California Cottage Theater with all these Broadway actors. And I feel like that was amazing coaching. I think doing a lot of times is the best learning tool. So they threw me into the water, and I was with all these just incredible actors.
Wow.
And sort of learned that way.
Has faith always been important to you?
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I think I was probably 3. We went to church where there were pews, and everybody came in and knelt first, and then they would sit. So we sat down, and I knelt, and when I looked up, everybody was sitting in the pews, and I was devastated. I thought I'd done something wrong. So I sat up and I said, "Mama, why didn't you tell me it was time to sit?" And she said, "Oh no, you can talk to God as long as you're praying when you're sitting and kneeling there." And so from that point on, I started talking to God, and by His mercy, He was helping me to know He was there. So I would sense His presence. I would hear His voice inside my head. And from that time on, my relationship with Him just kept growing, where I have known God. I know faith is a gift, and I had that gift as a little tiny kid. My journey's been bumpy. A lot of times I was in rebellion. When I was on the tennis tour, I had Bible verses all over my racket cover, But I'd get on that plane and hope that they'd notice that I was a pro tennis player instead of, Not
Welcome to human life.
I was just like,
It'll be okay. Fine.
such a bummer that I did that, because I had such an opportunity to travel around the world and be a light, and instead I was traveling around the world hoping that people would notice me rather than notice God, and I just think that was kind of gross. But anyway, it taught me a lesson, and so as getting to do what I love now as an actor, it's really, I was talking about this, we had a screening last night of our movie, and it's so hard to not have it be about you when everybody's clapping for you and talking to you and telling you. And I think by the grace of God, I'm just so grateful to be a part of what he's doing, and not really, it's not me. You can't make a movie without a whole bunch of talented people, and I just get to be a cog in the wheel and get to play, and we fight against our flesh, the spirit against the flesh. And
Yeah.
it's just a constant battle, but I just keep saying, please, keep me in the spirit and not the flesh.
Yeah.
So that's
Isn't
what
that
I'm
the truth?
hoping to be.
And that's a profound thing that you experienced as a young girl, in terms of hearing God and having that desire, that faith.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean, that is a
total
gift. Yeah, and that just happened to you on the pews. I mean, it just happened.
Right.
Wow. That's
And
wonderful.
then I didn't know that everyone didn't have that same relationship. I thought everybody heard from God and talked to God all the time. So I'd be out playing with my friends, and I'd throw up conversation to God and talk, and then just felt like he would guide me if I asked. And I think now that I know more scripture, at that point it was the faith of a child and just a relationship in prayer. But the more I study the word, and I'm in John 15 right now, right? So he talks about, if the Spirit's in you, if I am in you, and you abide in me and I in you, then ask what you wish. If I'm the one leading,
Right.
you can ask, and I've just been blown away, asking you to get to make this movie and to be useful and to be able to do what I love. It's just been amazing.
He's really, I'm so struck by him, but, as I read about David, the broken and contrite spirit is really, it just seems to me, if I had to summarize, like, what is he looking for, in terms of my posture? Or he's really looking for a broken and contrite spirit, which is kind of what you're describing in terms of to be used.
Yeah.
I'm available, I'm broken and contrite spirit, it's not about me, use me. A lot can happen when that happens, I think. And and yet we resist the circumstances that can get us to a broken and contrite spirit,
Yep.
oftentimes. But I was talking with a friend the other day about how tough circumstances, difficult things can be a gift if they take us to a place of broken and contrite spirit. You know what I'm saying?
And I think our brokenness is really where we have a voice. So if you've really blown it, then if you can share that, the playing field's even. So somebody else hurting is not going to
Yes.
think it's great to talk to you if you've got everything together.
Right.
But if you come in and say, I struggle with that too, or I blew it here, or I've blown it there.
Right.
All of a sudden, because every human being, right? We're all broken. We're all
Yes.
going to go through stuff. There's not one of us that lives on this earth that doesn't experience something.
Yes.
And it's a daily battle for every one of us. No matter how great our faith is, it's a daily battle to walk the right way, because only Jesus did it right. So it's just interesting. I just think,
We could do a whole program on this topic.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. But because that authenticity, I mean, the churches have to be a safe place for that kind of authenticity to be okay. It's okay to not be okay. Raise your hand if you struggle.
If
You know
you're
what I'm
not
saying?
Okay. And I think I've learned a lot with this movie I'm making, because I'm making a movie about trafficking, but my big question was, why is this a multi-billion-dollar industry?
Yeah.
Okay, who's buying?
Right.
There's no trafficking without buyers, and who are these buyers? And so as I uncovered that, I recognized that pornography, like every other drug, is super addictive. And because it's hidden, because people that are pastors or law enforcement or dads, husbands, wives, it's very addictive. People are in it and they're hiding it, and then it becomes getting a bigger hit, hiding that secret and all that stuff. Nobody can talk about it, and if you admit you've got an issue with that, you could lose your job.
Right.
You could lose your place. You can't be a teacher anymore. Well, if the statistics are true, over 85% of the population is on adult content, if the statistics are true. And that's
Wow.
crazy, because,
Yeah.
and over 50% of pastors, and they have no safe place. because they can't admit it. Then it's in the dark. So if we were able to say, look, I'm struggling, then
Right.
there's healing. And then there's
Right.
all these people trying to do great stuff. I'm a foster mom, so there's all these rules for how you protect kids, which are meant to be great rules. But sometimes the rules make it so that, okay, I have to report if I see something, no matter what. Well, mandated reporting is meant to help kids. But then where's the safe place for someone struggling with sex addiction?
Right.
How do you get help? Because you can't tell anybody without getting put behind bars. Wow, okay, so you gotta hide it. Now, who do you trust and who can you tell? And then the church doesn't want to look at it.
Yeah.
And because it's not happening here,
Right.
because I fell into that too. I want to be perfect. I want my kids to be perfect. I want to be perfect. I want to be the best mom, perfect mom. I don't want to make mistakes. But then my kids felt like they had to live up to this perfection because I wasn't telling all the stuff I had done, all the problems. I didn't want them to slip the way I'd slipped.
Right.
And what they thought was I was perfect. And being far from that, but became not what I had hoped, which was to protect them, it made me unsafe.
Interesting.
Then they can't tell me their stuff because they think I'm perfect. They don't want to disappoint perfect mom.
Right. And then
So,
shame.
ugh.
Shame.
What a mess. So
Right.
then if I can start telling them age appropriately, my own junk,
Yes.
I'm safe. And that no matter what you do, I will love you no matter what.
Yeah.
Then they can tell me everything. I'm safe. And I think in the families, that's a safe place, right? If we can just say, look, we all know our families have stuff. We go to each other and say, so anyway, I'm preaching, but
So
this
good.
is what I want for our world.
I read the quote a few months ago, when you really screw up, you've got two choices. One, I messed up, my dad's going to kill me. Two, I messed up, I got to call my dad. The level of openness and being safe
Yeah.
to be not okay, that's just powerful. Okay, we need to talk about the movie before
Oh,
we run
yeah.
out of time.
Thank you.
The film is Wake Up, and this is about the fictional story of a community that's rocked when two foster youths are taken by a sex trafficking ring, and many of the scenes in the movie are based on true stories. Janet is the director, writer, and co-star in Wake Up. It's coming out now. Here we're sitting here in 2022. Take us from your experience as a foster mom to this project.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was inspired at a prayer meeting. A bunch of us were foster families, either in social services or whatever aspect of foster care at this church. And this man, who I adore, John Franklin, who's used his life to help orphans, had a prayer meeting in his house, said, okay, God's doing something because all of us are at the same church. And we just went and prayed. And that was one of those times I heard God say, you're making a movie. So I called one of my friends who doesn't make movies and I said, hey, Kristen, God put you on my heart. You're supposed to be making this, because he did. You're supposed to be making this movie with me. And she said, no way. And then she prayed and we've been making this movie together. So my husband and her husband, we're all foster families. They've had over 125 foster kids, the Wises, who are our producing partners on this, in their home. And we adopted one of our foster children. So just knowing that we wanted to do something to show the world about foster kids and what is going on. I wanted it to be fictional because I feel like documentaries don't get watched as much. And I also wanted people to be able to see themselves in this. And I think to make it fictional but have it inspired by truth and really based on truth would be really great. And when my oldest daughter was in high school, one of her teachers told her about an anti-trafficking organization called Forever Found, and they were having their very first fundraiser. And she said to my husband and myself, for my birthday, will you take me to the Forever Found fundraiser? It happened to fall on her birthday. So we went. And I heard this beautiful, articulate young woman tell her story of being trafficked. And I said, I want the entire world to be in this room right now, because if everyone was here, we'd all feel the same way. We've got to do something about it. So this movie was inspired by that originally, and then being a foster mom, foster kids are the most exploited of any trafficked kids. And so it became both a foster movie and a trafficking. And it's not really just about foster kids. It's a movie where lives intersect and impact each other in this terrifying world of human trafficking. I wanted to show who's buying. I wanted to show where it's happening in every community all over the world. Every community trafficking is happening, which just blows your mind that it's happening in this neighborhood somewhere. And so for me, it's been this 7-year plus exciting journey of I've been mentoring a girl through Forever Found, and we wanted to give 100% of our profits to these 3 organizations that I've been involved with: Zoe International, Forever Found, and Raising Hope. Raising Hope's a foster organization, and it's in Ventura County, and they're amazing. They work from 0 to 26 because they're also working with emancipated foster youth. Because, at 18, who knows how to live a life? And those kids, they're 18, they're free. Well, what 18-year-old wouldn't say, great, I'm out. And then, oh no, I'm out,
Right.
And then most kids that are on the street, I think it's within 3 days they're trafficked. And the average expectancy of a kid that's been trafficked, a life expectancy is like 5 to 7 years that they'll live. Because,
Really?
Yeah. Overdose because they're being drugged, being killed, murdered because it's so hard, suicide to escape. So to think about that, if someone's trafficked, so if we can stop this, if we can help people to everybody jump in, we're also gifted differently. If everybody jumps in, that we'll be able to make a change. And so it's called Wake Up because I want people to go in the theater and see where they fit. I'm a director, actor, so I used what I can use, but other people are going to be watching it, and we want them to leave that theater and be inspired to go do something. So that's...
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the connection between the foster world and sex trafficking, and kind of what that it looks like.
Yeah. Well, sex trafficking is so messy, right? Because a lot of these kids think it's their boyfriend. So if you're 12 to 14 years old, which is the average age, or girlfriend or whatever, average age of being trafficked is between 12 and 14. So those kids, what little girl wouldn't want attention, or boy want attention from someone that's, so it's very easy to manipulate these kids, and they think it's their boyfriend or their girlfriend, it's their boyfriend that's going to be their husband down the road. And he says, here's a phone, I know your parents won't let you have one, don't tell him. So now you have a phone. Well, foster kids are the most exploited because they're vulnerable. They don't have the parents that are in their backyard. Like we were talking about, if you have one compassionate adult, one person there for you, you can change a kid's life, right? If you're really a safe person for a kid, and you're an adult, and you mentor one, or they're in your own home, that's going to stop trafficking because you have a safe place. So if they got the phone, they're going to come to you and say, hey, I got this phone, he told me not to tell you. And you're going to say, oh, remember I told you, always tell me anything. And if someone says, don't tell me, that's a pure sign that this isn't good for you. So what happens is these foster kids don't have anyone else. And in the movie, I show one of the exploited foster youth and how it happens. I'm just showing lots of different ways, but foster youth also come with, if you've been fostered, you come from having been either neglected, betrayed, abused. What if your parents die in a car accident and they don't have a trust? You go into foster care. Well, you don't have any family, and you don't stay in foster care unless you don't have any bio family that can legitimately take care of you well. You're already an at-risk youth. But I know personally that foster kids have an immediate loss. For me, I adopted through foster care. It's the same for me as all 4 of my kids are the same, the ones I gave birth to and the one I adopted. But for the one I adopted, he misses his birth family. He had a loss. I took him home from the NICU. He still misses his birth family because we know God put us in a family unit. It's such a beautiful thing, and there's that bond immediately. And so even though he had no real long-term anything, he just wants to know them. Who are they? Who are my birth family? So there's that loss and that vulnerability, and already a trauma, right? Trauma can cause people to be exploited.
Right. And so you're working with these organizations, and we had Tammy here, by the way, of Raising Hope.
I love Tammy
a few
Barnett,
weeks ago.
yes.
I went to high school with her, if you can believe it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, she was there last night at our movie screening.
Oh, was
so it was
she?
really
Yeah,
fun. Yeah, and she's a producer on this. So,
she is?
Yes. So that's our 501c3. So 100 of our profits are going to go to these 3 organizations, but we also had a producer that gave an investor. So we have both sides.
Okay.
So really cool.
So tell us the story of the movie without blowing it. I mean,
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about what the movie is about.
So like Crash, the movie Crash, I show it's very realistic. So I don't exploit anyone in it because you make a movie about exploitation, you don't want anyone exploited. So it's a PG-13-ish. We haven't been rated yet, but I made it so high school kids could see it because that's who I want to be in those theaters. And basically, I wanted the audience on the edge of their seats. So you're going to see the stories. It's based on human experience, and you're going to see the stories. It's these young kids that are connecting, and the ways that they're connecting, and then the way the adults, I play an adult, scary thing, no, but the way the adults interact, and the way that they how all these lives intersect and impact each other in this world. And it really is, I like surprises, so I can't really tell you much, because if I do, you'll know the surprises. But I have so many surprises, and everybody that was there last night said it feels a little bit like a gut punch, because you're going to have to watch something, but it's so important that everyone sees and that they want it out in theaters around the country. That's what we've got. And we took it on tour around the country, and everybody was telling us, please get this out there, show high schoolers. Can I get it to my high school? Can I get it to my college campus? And we geared it towards 17 to 27-year-olds, because I feel like those people are at the forefront of helping make a change, and they care, and they're passionate, and they're also being exploited. So we have one testimony at the very end of the film with Rachel C. Thomas. She's on the National Presidential Advisory Board for National Trafficking, Human Trafficking, and she gives a little bit of her own testimony. She's also on our website with the organizations that we're supporting, and she says it took one compassionate police officer and a host of nonprofits to change her life. She also said when she saw the film, if I'd seen this as a kid, I never would have been trafficked. And so we really want people to go to theaters. It's not like, oh great, I get to go watch a trafficking movie, but we made it so it would be a thriller, so it would be as fun as you can watch. I wanted Taken meets Crash, so that people, because Taken's fun to watch, but you don't realize you're watching trafficking. So I wanted it to be real. I wanted it to really reflect what's really going on. My co-writer is Dan Horan. He was a police officer and has been with the DA now as a expert witness and has dealt with this on the front lines. I had Rachel look at the dialogue for some of the people that are trafficking, and she helped write some of that dialogue, so it was realistic. But we just made it very clean as far as nobody's going to see anything that's going on. It's a lot of imagination, but you'll know what's going on, kind of thing.
So it's really real, and the idea is to wake people up to do something.
Yes.
Because this is an under the surface thing. I think if you went and knocked on a couple doors in my neighborhood, people wouldn't think that that's happening in our city.
Right.
I think, and probably everybody says, well, if everybody's saying that, then everybody's missing it.
Right.
Right. Because this is we see car crashes and DUIs or crime or vandalism, or we see a lot of sin.
Right.
This one is.
Well, I think it's hidden because of what we talked about with the shame. Because you can talk about drug addicts can get help, and there's something okay about that, drug addiction. And like drugs and arms, trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I think it's surpassed arms. I think it's either one or two is the biggest organized crime. So it's dangerous because it's organized crime, and it's everywhere. I had an investigative reporter tell me that I had a panel in Atlanta, and I had a friend on the front lines who'd been volunteering at an organization with a girl who'd been trafficked, working with her. And this investigative reporter called me and said, I'm going to close down your film in Atlanta and tell everyone not to go. And I said, why? And she said, well, because you're supporting an NGO that is doing bad work. And I, as an investigative reporter, brought trafficking to the forefront, and now all these nonprofits got started with underbellies where they're actually being used for the wrong things, because it's organized crime. So what happens is you can have a big, wonderful organization that's doing a lot of good work, but underneath being funded by people that are in the organized ring. And because it goes, politicians are involved, police officers are involved, pastors are involved, it's hidden. You know, we look at Epstein and we want to say, oh my gosh, that terrible pedophile, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So anyway, I talk in circles, forgive me, but I just want it, it's just that whole thing of, there's so much of it happening, and it's so hidden because they want it to be hidden.
Right.
And because people aren't talking about their sex addiction. Because if they're buying children, or even if they're not, if someone's watching pornography, the majority of pornography is trafficked kids or adults, trafficked people. So what people don't realize, if someone's being trafficked, that you're making an image of that, you're actually creating pornography with that person and then selling it around the country. So people that are buying are actually watching it, not knowing that's what they're watching. And then they use it to keep manipulating the girls, and they train them with it. And it's just used. And now you're getting 7-year-olds, boys, on those games, those video games. The traffickers are really smart. And what they'll do is they'll friend the kid playing the game. Oh, show me your muscles. Oh, take off your shirt. I can see your muscles better. been playing this game for 6 months, a year, same person. I know this person. Oh yeah, my mom's not here right now. That's why I'm getting to play the game. Oh yeah, I live here. Oh, I go to school here. He's 7. He's playing a game. His parents let him play a game. It's a nice little game. Internet also, these kids putting themselves on social media, telling everybody where they are and what they're doing. So we just have to realize we can do something. There is hope. I know this is the good life, and I'm not trying to bring the bad life, but I think people need to know. I think it'll help our society if we open our eyes, if we wake up and we say, okay, it is happening. Now what do I do?
Light is the great disinfectant. And that's what you're really trying to do, is bring stuff to light.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised there's a lot of resistance. Like you say, the web is, it's a tangled web. We had a show on pornography with this guy who wrote this book, and it was really interesting. And it's very, I mean, the truth about it is, the elevator only goes down. I mean, this is a progressive. It only gets worse. And he was making the connection between pornography and all the stuff you're talking about, and violence.
Right.
The elevator only goes down with these kinds of addictions. They're vicious.
Yeah.
And they take control, and next thing you know, it leads to things that you're talking about.
And there's help for addiction.
There's
too.
help.
Yeah.
And you're not worse than the next guy.
Right.
And that's part of the shame part. I mean, when you say certain sins, are okay, and other ones we don't talk about.
Right.
But it's all the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all, as we talked about before, broken people.
Yeah.
So there's kind of this dual part of it, exposing it, calling it out, wanting everybody to know, but at the same time, compassion and hope and light's the great disinfectant, right? I mean, isn't it kind of both?
Well, and meeting people with that love. So we want to say, well, if we had better laws and stiffer punishments, then people would get well. Well, addiction doesn't work that way.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Right.
You can put them all in prison, but no, you can't, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry and we've got too many buyers and people involved. But if you get help, then you actually, and what we said, when you're broken, then you're used for the help. So like Rachel C. Thomas, she's a frontline advocate. She was trafficked, and she's using that horrific experience in her life to do trainings. And on our website, you can go there, and she has all this training for parents and for kids and people who've been trafficked, how to heal and all those kinds of things. And these wonderful organizations that walk people through. And I think that's why, Celebrate Recovery and things like that, or Pure Desire Ministry, there's things out there where people can get help. Yeah. Covenant Eyes putting on their apps, and then watching our kids on their devices. It's more addictive in kids' brains, as you probably know from the guy that talked about pornography. So we got to be careful about handing these devices off early, because if a 7-year-old's being babysat with an iPad, they can stumble. It happened to one of my friends. She was mortified to find out that her kid had been on porn for 3 months, and he liked it because it's addictive. And he did 7. And she's a great mom. She just thought he was watching a little show. And she was a great mom because he went to her and said, Mommy, I'm watching. Oh no, and she knew I was making a movie, so she came and talked to me, and I said, no shame. Great opportunity to teach.
Right.
He's going to be exposed to this at some point if he's on this earth at this point.
Right.
You turn on the TV and you watch anything, you turn your eyes away a lot of times, which is why I wanted to make content that really could help, edify, and not just for a believing audience. I want this for the entire world to see, because we can all do something and serve. Right. And then
we can all do something. That's the takeaway I took from reading about that when they see this, your hope is that everybody will decide to do something, whether that's give money to Raising Hope, foster a child, mentor a high schooler, get clean with their own problem, help a friend, get into a covenant friendship where we say we're not going to do. Well, I mean, everybody literally can do something.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, let's hope for that.
Yes.
That's a good note to end on. We're out of time. This has been fun. You're great.
Thanks so much. I so appreciate you.
Thanks for what you're doing. And I know it's not about you, but you stepped up, and it's awesome.
Thank you.
We're rooting for it.
Thanks for what you're doing. I'm so glad there's a program like that's out there.
Thank you. Thanks, Janet. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.